Hello dear listener, please subscribe to our channel. Enjoy watching. He followed Sarah at a distance, his heart pounding in his chest. She glanced around furtively before slipping into a room. The door didn't close completely behind her. Daniel approached slowly, telling himself he was being paranoid. There had to be a reasonable explanation for this. Maybe she was feeling sick and needed a place to lie down. Maybe she was making a private phone call. But as he neared the door, he heard voices. Thomas's deep baritone followed by Sarah's breathy laugh. "You know, promotions come with a small price," Thomas was saying, his tone smug. "I'm willing to pay," Sarah replied, her voice husky with desire. Daniel's world tilted on its axis. He pushed the door open, the scene before him searing itself into his brain. Sarah was on her knees in front of Thomas, her hands on his belt. They both turned to look at him. Sarah's eyes wide with shock, Thomas's narrowed in annoyance. For a moment, nobody moved, nobody spoke. The only sound was the distant chatter of the remaining partygoers, oblivious to the drama unfolding in this small room. Then something inside Daniel snapped. With a roar of rage, he lunged at Thomas. His fist connected with Thomas's jaw, sending him stumbling backward. Daniel tackled him to the ground, all the hurt and betrayal fueling his actions. "Daniel, stop!" Sarah screamed, but her voice sounded distant, unimportant. He landed another punch, feeling a sick satisfaction as Thomas's nose crunched under his knuckles. Blood spurted, staining his expensive shirt. Suddenly, hands were pulling him off Thomas, security guards, their faces grim. Sarah was sobbing, her mascara running down her cheeks. "You," he spat at her, his voice raw with emotion. "Don't you dare come home. We're done." He shrugged off the security guards and stormed out of the room. A crowd had gathered, drawn by the commotion. He pushed past them, ignoring their whispers and stares. Alice stood at the edge of the crowd, her face a mixture of sympathy and guilt. "Daniel, I'm so sorry. I should have told you sooner." He paused, looking at her. "How long?" She swallowed hard. "Months. It's been an open secret in the office." Daniel nodded, a cold calm settling over him. "Thank you for your honesty, Alice. At least someone in this godforsaken place has some integrity." As he walked out of the building, his mind was already racing. This wasn't over, not by a long shot. Sarah and Thomas thought they could humiliate him, betray him. They had no idea what was coming. He pulled out his phone and dialed a number he hadn't used in years. "Matt, it's Daniel. I need your help. It's time to call on that favor you owe me." As he hung up, a grim smile spread across his face. They wanted to play games? Fine. But they were about to learn that he played to win, and he played for keeps. The morning after the disastrous party, Daniel sat in his living room, nursing a cup of coffee and a bruised hand. The house felt empty without Sarah, but he pushed aside any lingering sentimentality. She made her choice. A knock at the door pulled him from his thoughts. He opened it to find Alice standing there, looking nervous. "Daniel, hi. I hope it's okay that I came by. I got your address from the employee directory." He stepped aside to let her in. "It's fine, Alice. Come in." She entered, her eyes darting around the room. "I wanted to check on you after, well, you know." He nodded, gesturing for her to sit. "I appreciate that. How bad is the fallout at the office?" Alice sank onto the couch, wringing her hands. "It's not great. Everyone's talking about it. Thomas is trying to spin it as you being unstable and jealous." He snorted. "Of course he is. What about Sarah?" "She hasn't been in. Word is she's staying at Thomas's second apartment." The information hit him like a punch to the gut, but he kept his face neutral. "I see. Alice, I need to know everything. How long has this been going on?" Alice took a deep breath. "Months, maybe even a year. It started with little things, late nights at the office, private meetings. Then people started noticing how they looked at each other, the inside jokes. It became an open secret. And no one thought to tell me? He couldn't keep the bitterness out of his voice. I wanted to, Alice said, her eyes pleading. But I was scared. Thomas has a lot of power, and I'm just an intern. I'm so sorry, Daniel. He reached out and patted her hand. It's not your fault, Alice. You're the only one who's been honest with me. Thank you for that. She smiled weakly. So, what are you going to do now? Before he could answer, there was another knock at the door. He opened it to find a familiar face, Detective Matt Barnes, his old friend from college. Daniel, he said, pulling him into a brief hug. I came as soon as I could. You sounded rough on the phone last night. Daniel ushered him in, making introductions. Matt, this is Alice. She works with Sarah. Alice, this is Detective Matt Barnes, an old friend. Matt's eyes narrowed as he looked at Alice. Can she be trusted? Daniel nodded. She's been more honest than anyone else in this mess. Matt sat down, his expression serious. All right, Daniel, tell me everything. For the next hour, Daniel laid it all out, the party, the betrayal, everything Alice had told him about the affair. Matt listened intently, occasionally jotting notes in a small notebook. When he finished, Matt leaned back. That's one hell of a situation, buddy. What do you want to do about it? Daniel met his gaze, his resolve hardening. I want to destroy them, Matt. Both of them. They humiliated me, made a fool of me. I want them to lose everything. Alice gasped softly, but Matt just nodded. I figured as much. But we need to be smart about this. If we're going to take them down, we need concrete evidence. Stuff that'll hold up in court if it comes to that. What kind of evidence? Daniel asked. Financial records, emails, text messages. Anything that proves Thomas has been abusing his position or embezzling funds. And we need proof of Sarah's involvement. Daniel turned to Alice. Do you think you could help us with that? She hesitated for a moment, then nodded firmly. Yes. I have access to a lot of files as Thomas's intern, and I know where he keeps the sensitive stuff. It's risky, Matt warned. If you get caught. I don't care, Alice said, her voice stronger than he'd ever heard it. What they did to Daniel was wrong, and I'm tired of being afraid of Thomas. Daniel felt a surge of gratitude towards her. Thank you, Alice. We'll be careful, I promise. Matt stood up, pacing the room. Okay, here's what we do. Alice, you gather what you can from the office. Be discreet. Don't take any unnecessary risks. Daniel, you focus on Sarah. Check your joint accounts, credit card statements, anything that might show unusual activity. What about you? Daniel asked. Matt grinned, a predatory glint in his eye. I'll do some digging on Thomas. Something tells me a guy like that has skeletons in his closet. We just need to find them. As they prepared to leave, Daniel felt a glimmer of hope for the first time since the party. Thank you both. I don't know what I'd do without you. Alice squeezed his arm gently. We've got your back, Daniel. Matt nodded, his face serious. We'll make them pay, buddy. Just remember, this isn't going to be quick or easy. Daniel met his gaze, his resolve unwavering. Let's take them down. As they left, Daniel turned back to the empty house. It no longer felt lonely. Instead, it felt like the calm before a storm, and he was ready to unleash that storm on Sarah and Thomas with everything he had. Over the next few weeks, their plan unfolded with meticulous precision. Alice proved to be an invaluable asset, her position as Thomas's intern providing them with a goldmine of information. Daniel, you won't believe what I found, Alice said one evening, her voice hushed even though they were alone in his living room. Daniel leaned forward, eager. What is it? She pulled out a USB drive, her hands shaking slightly. Financial records. Thomas has been cooking the books for years, embezzlement, fraud, you name it. Daniel took the drive, feeling its weight in his hand. "This is huge, Alice. How did you get it?" "I volunteered to stay late, said I wanted to organize some files. Thomas trusts me because he thinks I'm too scared to cross him." A small, satisfied smile played on her lips. "He has no idea." Just then, Matt burst through the door, his face flushed with excitement. "You two aren't going to believe this." He spread out a series of photographs on the coffee table. They showed Thomas in various compromising positions with several women, none of them Sarah. "Looks like your wife isn't the only one he's been screwing," Matt said. Daniel felt a mixture of disgust and vindication. "Does Sarah know?" Matt shook his head. "I don't think so. But that's not even the best part." He pointed to one particular photo. "See this woman? That's the wife of Thomas's biggest client. If this gets out, he'll lose the account and probably half the company's business." Daniel sat back, his mind racing. "This is perfect. We can use this to pressure Thomas." Alice looked uncertain. "But what about Sarah? Don't we have anything on her?" Daniel pulled out his laptop, opening a series of documents. "Oh, we do. I've been going through our finances. Turns out Sarah's been siphoning money from our joint accounts for months. Expensive gifts, hotel rooms, all paid for with our money." "Jesus," Matt muttered. "She really did a number on you, didn't she?" Daniel nodded, his jaw clenched. "She did. But now it's our turn." Over the next few days, they pieced together the full extent of Thomas and Sarah's deception. The picture it painted was ugly: years of fraud, infidelity, and manipulation. "We need to confront them," Daniel said finally, after they'd gone over the evidence for what felt like the 100th time. Matt raised an eyebrow. "We could just turn this over to the authorities." Daniel shook his head. "No, I want to see their faces when they realize it's all crumbling down. I want them to know it was me." Alice touched his arm gently. "Daniel, I understand you're angry, but this isn't about anger." He cut her off, his voice steady. "They thought they could play with people's lives, use them like pawns. It's time they learn there are consequences." Matt and Alice exchanged a look, then nodded. "All right," Matt said. "How do you want to do this?" Daniel laid out his plan, watching their expressions shift from concern to understanding, and finally to determination. "It's risky," Matt warned. "If this goes wrong." "It won't," Daniel assured him. "They're arrogant. They think they've won. That'll be their downfall." As they finalized the details, Daniel felt a surge of anticipation. Soon, very soon, Sarah and Thomas would learn the true meaning of betrayal. The stage was set. Daniel's house, once a symbol of the life he and Sarah had built together, was now the backdrop for their downfall. Hidden cameras were strategically placed, ready to capture every moment of their humiliation. Daniel paced the living room, his heart pounding with a mixture of anticipation and righteous anger. The doorbell rang right on time. If you enjoyed this story, then please make sure you subscribe to this channel. That would help me a lot.